When Arabian Travel Market 2022 opens its doors to visitors on May 9, it will be the first full-fledged tourism event to be held since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic that has disrupted the world of travel for over 2 years. Danielle Curtis, exhibition director of ATM, tells India Outbound in an interview that she expects a very high level of participation and that both the exhibitor and visitor numbers should be close to 2019 levels. So my first question to you, Danielle, is what does ATM 2022 look like in terms of exhibitor and visitor interest?
Yes, so this year we certainly know, as we've just discussed, Varsha, that the global tourism industry is 100% ready to come out of restrictions, to get on their road to recovery. And this year we've certainly seen a change to Arabian Travel Market from last year. I'm happy to say that we'll feature 1,500 exhibitors from 112 countries which will be represented. And we're expecting over 20,000 visitors, which will get us closer to pre-pandemic figures, but we're not quite out of the woods 100%, but it's no mean feat, and we're very excited about that.
Okay, and is the tourism trade from around the world ready to participate in a large global gathering with the kind of investment of time and money that comes with it?
100%. There is a pent-up demand, a huge enthusiasm, really to go back to near normal. For sure, we can see destinations still unable to travel or have some restrictions there, but we're certainly confident that the destinations or the countries or the attendees from countries will be back to almost 2019 levels. But in terms of the regional investment, I think if I can just explain that it's the industry analysis suggests that the recovery of the Middle East is in full swing. The hotel construction contracts are worth 4.5 billion, and they're expected to be awarded in the GCC alone this year. We get that research from BNC Network. So actually, it represents a year-on-year growth of about 16%. So I'm certain our delegates and our attendees will have numerous opportunities to explore these trends. We actually have for ATM this year an ITIC ATM Middle East Summit, and it'll address the project.
Okay, Danielle, how will this year's edition compare with the ATM in 2019? Could you give us some numbers, please?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Barsha. As I was just explaining, we're expecting approximately 1,500 exhibitors from approximately 112 destinations. Of course, we don't know the full length and breadth of the destinations of our attendees, but we are expecting over 20,000 visitors. The expansion of numerous sector and region-specific zones, it's really exciting for me to share with you the statistics. We've had about a 380% increase from travel tech product at ATM this year. Hotels, we're seeing an increase of 71%. From Asia, it's increasing approximately 50%. The Middle East and Europe, roughly 50% respectively. So it's happy to report that our show floor this year will be over 85% larger than 2021. So really positive signs and news for ATM.
That's good to know. And are there any key themes and focus areas for this year's ATM?
Yes, for sure. Just to explain, our key themes run across the full breadth of ATM. From the minute we finish ATM 2021, we adopt a new theme, and this year's theme is the future of international travel and tourism. So essentially, it shines a spotlight on the long-term trajectory of our industry. It explores the trends and opportunities, and of course, the catalysts for change, which is clearly along the road, or at least of what we've seen, to frictionless travel and transportation and seamless tourism and hospitality experiences. Global tourism was disproportionately affected due to travel restrictions, as we were sort of referencing earlier. So the tourism industry really has demonstrated incredible resilience during the recent years, using ingenuity and innovation to overcome the many challenges that they've had. So it's time for ATM to positively discuss the future of travel and tourism.
Okay. So Danielle, tell us more about like how is the global aviation industry's participation this year at ATM?
Always enjoyed a strong participation from the aviation sector, and really this year is no exception. We host representatives from a broad selection of leading airlines, airports and aviation companies. The only thing I could say is, whilst I don't think it's possible for me to draw an exact conclusion about the global aviation landscape just by who is exhibiting at ATM, but I can see that we're seeing strong signs of recovery within this sector since the international travel restrictions began to relax. We've seen many airlines regionally and globally reintroduce and add routes to their offerings. So the trends show certainly no signs of abating, and we certainly look forward to discussing the industry in greater detail at ATM this year.
As World Cup football championships come in a few months later, how important is sports tourism to the travel industry?
It's a great question, and to answer it very confidently, very important. Sports-related visits really have long since been an important component of international travel industry. You see that from all of the global events, and the Middle East has really cemented its position, I believe, and very evidently as a world-class stage for these large events. So I guess FIFA World Cup in Qatar is obviously grabbing the lion's share of attention at present, and understandably so. But as you mentioned some of those names, there are so many sporting events across the country, even including Qatar has the Masters Golf, Qatar also has the Open Tennis, the Grand Prix in Qatar, whilst if you look across the UAE, it hosts and win bids for an abundance of elite sporting events. We all know the Dubai Desert Classic Golf, of course the Dubai World Cup, which is quite a famous horse racing event on a global scale, UAE T20 League, cricket, NBA, and of course Grand Prix, which is vehemently positioned in Abu Dhabi and originally in Bahrain from 2004. Now actually looking at Saudi Arabia, the sports tourism sector is also growing very rapidly. I mean, you have the Diriyah E-Prix, the Jeddah Grand Prix, and really if it really represents an impressive roster of international sports globally. So it plays a very prominent and key role across the Middle East in attracting visitation to the region.
Saudi Arabia is the next destination that is said to be the focus of the Middle East. And how is ATM going to support this development?
It's a huge development. We read, we see, we're working quite closely with Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia's ever expanding tourism sector, it will represent a key focus for ATM for sure, especially given the overall investment in tourism infrastructure and giga projects in support of its 2030 vision. And all of this is to diversify from oil revenue. So we see that there's more than 30,000 rooms under development in the kingdom at the moment. For this reason, for the infrastructure, the investment and focus on it, ATM will focus with 2 sessions. We're dedicating exclusively to Saudi Arabia, surrounding its strategy and of course its blueprint for responsible tourism.
All right. I think I'll head to the most important question, that is for the Indian market.
And rightly so.
How important is India for ATM and ATM for India?
The simple answer is extremely important. India is a key source market for the Middle East inbound travel sector. Global data analysts predict India's outbound trips will hit 29 million by 2025. That's a sheer volume just by saying that number. The country also remains the biggest source market for Dubai in 2021. 910,000 visitors, according to Dubai's Department of Economy and Tourism. So big numbers here. So the number of inbound tourists traveling from India to the UAE, it's actually witnessed a 50% increase of late. So in order to reflect the essential contribution that the India market makes to the Middle East tourism industry, ATM for sure will feature a buyer forum. It's dedicated exclusively to India. It enables our delegates, exhibitors, and attendees to explore the trends and, of course, the opportunities related to the India tourism sector.
Today being Earth Day, what is sustainable tourism seen in action, or does it only stay as a theme of discussions at trade meetings?
Yeah, I mean, I like the question, Varsha. It's certainly a very good question. But sustainable tourism, just to put it within the Middle East context, it is representing a rapidly emerging trend in the Middle East, for sure. And our sector is beginning to now walk the walk as well as talk the talk. I mean, Dubai Can Sustainability Initiative, it's provided refillable water stations around Dubai, and this is just really to reduce the single-use plastic. Other projects, including Oman's tourism development company, Omran Group, for example, they've launched the first phase. It's called the Yiti Sustainable City. So it's a destination with sustainable tourism built in its DNA. The project is 1 billion in its initial stage, and it's going to feature energy efficient residential units and villas. So, you know, certainly there's importance, and not to discount, I'm sure you read this last year, in Saudi Arabia, the Sustainable Tourism Global Center was unveiled in 2021. And it's basically the multi-country, multi-stakeholder coalition, and it's essentially been designed to accelerate the tourism sector transition to net zero emissions. I mean, it's a hot topic. It's the key subject globally. So it certainly represents an increasing importance and focus for the Middle East. But that's really not to say that there's any room for complacency here. You know, the international travel and tourism sector is responsible for approximately 8% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. So it really does mean urgent action is needed to support, and I believe this region is adopting that.